Now, one way to understand how Mandeville's argument works and to see it in general is to look at page 3, the last page of the preface, the long paragraph in the left column, one of his concluding statements. And he here develops a metaphor concerning the city streets. Mandeville lived in England. The great city, of course, is London. London is notoriously dirty. Normal human beings complain about the dirt and wish it would go away. And then this becomes his metaphor for how we should regard the less inconvenient, more disgusting, dirtier things in society. And so just to stay within the metaphor, to consider what should we think about the dirty streets of London? Well, of course, the honest human reaction that we don't want to discount is that we wish the streets were cleaner. We wish the streets to be much cleaner than they generally are. When we think only of ourselves, your own clothes and private convenience, you'd rather not have to step into the mud and the horse droppings, that your shoes would be in better condition if that were true. But think about what this means. After all, the streets are only dirty because people use them. And if you face that question, do you want people to use the streets, or would you prefer them not to use them? Well, of course, then you have to come down on the side of using the streets, because when they use them, they provide things that are very good for the Commonwealth, good for everybody, and good for us. And so what offends us, all the dirt on the streets, results from the cause is the wealth and businesses of the mighty city. And so then there's a list. All the things that we want to buy and use depend on traffic in the streets. The things we want to eat and drink and keep ourselves warm. And then there are waste and superfluities. After all, if you want to bring a barrel of beer to a London pub, then you need a horse to pull a cart which has that beer in it. As you want to drink the beer, the horse has superfluities that it will deposit in the form of manure on the city streets, and so that will make the streets dirty, and because of all the people, it will be spread everywhere. There will be nowhere to avoid it. So then we have to look at the whole picture. We don't like the dirt, but we understand that the dirt is a necessary product of everything that we do like. That if we make the decision that London should be more clean and therefore less flourishing, that will hurt us at the end. And so Mandeville says, might not a good citizen say? The dirty streets, they're evil, certainly, but they're a necessary evil, inseparable from felicity and sort of happiness, living a good life, having what you like, or having what you need. And that's the basic idea. Right? That vice may be evil, but contrary to the older way of thinking, vice is a necessary evil. And we will be more sensible people if we recognize that having the consequence depends on the cause. And if you like the consequence, then you should admit that you also like the cause. And this is Mandeville's pattern for argument, that all disgusting things, including bad habits and bad human behavior and human selfishness in general, all these disgusting things, although evil, have this character. Each one is a necessary evil. And we will be more truthful and more mature thinkers, and make better decisions and be less hypocritical if we recognize this fact and keep it always in front of us. The poem for a minute, we see the setup that he's going to try to disarm us by telling this what seems to be a children's story just about insects that behave like human beings. But that's just his way of addressing political realities, and to be a little less offensive while he's doing it. If we look at the end of today's reading, so we ended on the bottom stanza of the left column of page 7. Stanza is like a paragraph in prose, right? Not poetry. Writing that's not poetry has paragraphs. Writing that is poetry has stanzas, and we see them set off by those blank spaces between the lines, the extra blank space between the lines. So this last one gets close to his thesis. What have we got? Every part of the hive, the whole society, was full of vice. And this is one thing for us to recognize when Mandeville says vice, he really means it, really bad human habits. He's not like Locke, who says that individual interests are completely permissible, and they're not as bad as people think. Mandeville is quite open and honest. These things are as bad as people think, but we should think them all the way through to see their ultimate contributions, the ultimate consequences of these vices. They make good societies, right? So all of the parts are full of vice, but the whole, the mass, is a paradise. So the society was in good condition, even though each person in it was a bad person. And then he goes to explain a country which would be like France or England at the day, sort of very, very successful and prominent. So they're flattered in peace, other countries respect them. Feared in war, they're strong. They get the respect of other countries, and they're quite wealthy. And people live within them. Live well, and so they're the plus side of human society to balance out the other hives, which would be the other nations. Other places are poor, but these places are strong and flourishing. And so from these vices come a kind of blessing for the state. So their crimes conspired to make them great. So there he's having fun with the paradox. When crimes, you expect something small or evil, and conspiracies, people conspire to do something bad. But what is the result? What is the conspiracy? It makes the whole nation great. And so virtue learns cunning tricks. Right? A virtue learns to be its opposite. And so all of these bad people have a happy influence. And politics makes friends with vice. Right? That's the essence of modern politics. Instead of taking vice as our enemy and arranging our whole society to try to get rid of it, we will make friends with vice. And therefore, the worst people, and the common people, right? The multitude, the great mass of normal everybody's, and even the worst among them, do something for the common good. And that's his basic thesis, and an extreme version of the modern idea, which will help us be clear about what that is. Let me just mention that these are the signs for the endnotes. If you want to read further and get more clarification, they're all in this text. So back here on page 5, you could look at the top stanza of the left-hand column. We see how serious Mandeville is about investigating vice and not being shy, about saying that even the worst qualities have good consequences. And when he says worst, he means what anybody means by worst. So all sorts of people. And the honest laborers make a contribution to society, and the wealthy and noble and respectable people, but also sharper and people who cheat at gambling games, pimps, people who make money in the sex trade, coiners, controversies, and small-time thieves, quacks, so people who make money by pretending to be effective doctors and playing on people's fears and their weak bodies. Soothsayer, people who pretend to know the future and other higher truths. All of those people. These are the knaves. So it's what any society recognizes as the worst element, both kind of small and unrespectable, but also selfish and unhelpful, apparently unhelpful for the common good. And what does Mandeville say? Bar the name, except that we had insulting names for what they do. The respectable people, the people who work hard, so the serious, the grave people who are industrious, who work hard and have jobs that have flattering names rather than insulting ones, they're the same. All trades and places, so whatever you do and whatever part of society you occupy, they knew some cheat. There was something dishonest about them. No calling was without deceit. And then, of course, for Mandeville, what matters is that if no calling is without deceit, then no calling is without its honesty either.